Wow, guys, this is the unique operation that was done, I think, accidentally by Ukrainian army. So on the way to hit some of the Russian infrastructure yesterday night, our guys spotted the Russian helicopter and dived down to hit it. So you can see the rotor blade over there. And it seems like definitely it was hit by FP1 drone. It's not FPV, it's the long-range drone that is made by the Firepoint company. Guys, this video tells us so much information about how Ukraine uses FP1 drones on Russian territory and on occupied regions. Actually, there is a drone operator who receives the signal live from the camera of the drone and able to direct the drone precisely to any sort of the Russian infrastructure. That's why FP1 drones are so damn effective. And they're also kind of fast, or maybe Russian helicopter was very slow here, so the drone was capable to chase it to the back and hit. Now about the type of this helicopter. At first it was reported as Mi-8, but it's not Mi-8, it's Mi-28 Milev aircraft, a Russian attack helicopter. Yeah, maybe person responsible to identify the enemy aircraft is not really that competent in how they look, so they put Mi-8 on this video editing, but it's attack helicopter. You may see it on the engines, and the empennage clearly shows that it's Mi-28. That's the Mi-28 helicopter, just for you to understand. It is also called as a Russian Apache. Well, Apache is way more capable than this one and also way lighter, but still arguably it's the best attack Russian helicopter which they have. Well, they also have K-52, but this one, according to its characteristics, performance, experts say is better. And you may see the silhouette too of the engines, also this plank at the empennage part near the after rotor. So as for me, it is clear that it's Mi-28 and not Mi-8. Mi-8 is the transport helicopter. Mi-8 is more thick. It doesn't have the engines split apart. They're all together. And our experts already have the same opinion, so the placement of the engines, and here you can see Mi-8, different tail, different engine composition. Nice, nice. Well, definitely something unique. Still, I believe that this operation was conducted by chance. Our drone operators were just lucky to spot the Russian helicopter on the way. However, we see that those kind of the strikes even could be planned on the Russian airfield, on Russian aircraft in the air. It's outstanding, yes. And this video was just released. You see FP1 drone is flying to hit Russian helicopter. Actually, in this case, 2 of the FP1 drones spotted helicopter and hopefully chased it. Yeah, I definitely hope this operation was successful, because video cuts just over here. Yeah. But of course, the main task for Ukraine is to hit the Russian military and energy infrastructure. For example, this is the occupied Donetsk. As the locals reported, there was some sort of the military storage that was definitely warmed up this cold autumn night. More blurred images, they hesitate to show us more details, but at first it was the small fire, and later on it became big somehow. And what we have here, guys, is Saratov refinery. This was filmed from Engels' perspective. Engels is the Russian military base, and you may see how many of the fuel or oil tanks are out there. I think after all, fuel tanks, those could be storages for the local refinery facilities or for the airfield itself, and one of the tanks at least got kaboomed. Star Wars. But it seems like it doesn't help that much. Real action, yeah. Stop, stop, they say. Usual day in Russia, yeah. Special military operation goes according to plan. Absolutely. Plus, the last night, Russia lost one more oil refinery in Sызrань. Well, at least it was severely damaged and now on maintenance. My friends, in this video I'm gonna speak about absolutely everything. Frontline updates, the situation with this so-called peace deal, and how Trump is already tacos with that proposal. Plus, we're gonna discuss lots of the other news related to Ukraine, and not only. So bear with me, and just right now, give me a favor. Press your like to this video and subscribe for the channel, because your subscriptions and your likes, they really matter to propel this video in YouTube algorithms. Thank you so much. Let's go. I would continue with the front lines if you don't mind. So here we have the information that Ukraine went on a counterattack from Stepnohirsk. Yeah, Ukraine, in this part of the map, it has some of the losses. You see, kind of far away from the front lines, Ukraine lost one of the vehicles. Yeah, guys, I have to say about the losses too. On this channel, I say the situation as it is. You see, Ukraine also has those kind of the protections for the vehicles, hunger type, but it's the reality of the war. This was the Cossack MRAP, Ukrainian-made vehicle, and luckily, you see, the door is open, crew left the vehicle because it just bogged down in a mud. Yeah, it's a very nasty weather that leads to this kind of the dirt on the front line, and Russians just finished off the vehicle, but it was not stopped by the Russian drone. Yeah. That's why right now BMPs, they matter a lot, because those kind of the vehicles with the wheels, they just stack in the mud, especially with this cage, you know, it just adds extra weight and you can stack with it easily because it's lowering the clearance of the vehicle. So if it wasn't the cage, this vehicle could be okay. But of course with the cage it's way better because it's the physical drone protection. And you know what, sometimes Ukrainians may even finish their own vehicles like that if they're stuck in the gray zone. Well, it wasn't the gray zone in this specific case, that's why it was finished by Russians. Well, nevertheless, there is now an attempt of Ukrainian army to counterattack towards Plavny. Let's zoom out a little, I'm gonna draw you some of the arrows here. So it's something like that. Ukraine tries to cut Russian forces, Russian supplies, and this road. The roads now are very crucial. You saw, yeah, mud, dirt everywhere. That's why the paved roads are matter, and who controls them actually has initiative. I'm not saying about the general advantage initiative from all of the front lines. It is understandable that since Russia has more resources, they have this initiative. But I'm speaking about those specific spots, patches, regions. For example, here, I don't believe that Russia, after all, has this huge advantage. But it is understandable that they are moving their forces towards this Dachi area. For them, it is convenient to hide in those buildings or ruined buildings. They don't want to operate in open fields, but it makes them vulnerable because they may advance only in this very thin, narrow corridor. According to the information from analytics, there were attempts of Russia to cut the road E105 for supplies of Ukrainian army, but all of those attack attempts failed for Russians. Here Russia uses just infantry forces, but the Ukrainian soldiers were already spotted in this area, this block with multi-story buildings, and let's check out this video. Yeah, this is the enemy. They go to the basement of this multi-story building. Those buildings are damaged because it's the third Russian attempt to get this particular block under control. Well, in this case, Ukraine played very smart. Ukraine put the waiting drones in those streets, and they were monitoring the Russian infantry movement. And later on, they hit exactly the place where Russian infantry went to. Yeah, someone is running away, but not for a long time. Sorry guys, I cannot show you those videos in precise details. I hope you understand why. Here's the thermal camera also. So Ukraine is very concentrated on this block. And later on, somehow, maybe with aviation bomb, I don't know, the building was collapsed. Wow. Yeah, I don't think that something is left out of this Russian infantry group. And again, it shows of how many drones are out there on the front lines, how Ukraine operates them elsewhere. And guys, I monitor all of those videos coming from the front lines, and I would say that the Ukrainian drone operators are more capable than the Russian ones. Yeah, Russians also have the Rubicon unit, but it's the only one the same as capable as many of the advanced Ukrainian brigades who continue to operate the same way as Rubicon. Strangely, but now there is the trend of hunting one drone units against the other drone units. For example, the same Russian Rubicon unit has the task to eliminate Ukrainian drone positions. The same goes for Ukrainian drone operators, and they ambushed lots of the Rubicon drone operator positions too, especially in Pokrovsk. Actually, Russians now are careless in Pokrovsk. Their losses skyrocketed because it is the rush for them to occupy Pokrovsk because the task is set by Putin himself. But we see that for the couple of weeks, Pokrovsk still holds. I mean, even Russians recognize it's not entirely occupied, and there is the risk for Mirnograd. Obviously, Ukrainian army is in a very big problem in that place. We're gonna discuss that area too today, but in general, I may say that Russian army there bogged down, and not just there. in many of the spots of the front lines. So yeah, the soldiers on the front lines, they say that infantry losses on positions, like in the trenches at the zero line, are now lowering compared to the losses behind the front lines. It is happening for both armies, Ukrainian and Russian ones. The trend started from the beginning of this year, 2025, now it accelerates. It also tells that the gray zone kill area basically expands. It also means that the infantry which is fighting in the trenches will play less role in some years, And what we have is this block. So Russians tried to occupy this southeastern area of the block. They didn't go to the school, but they were annihilated. I hope I spelled this word correctly. Also, they went to the northern area, but not successfully, I would say. Maybe there is the presence of the Russian infantry, but they cannot use it as their bridgehead for the further advancement. And let's continue with Zaporizhia direction. If you want to break the native English speaker tongue, tell them to pronounce Zaporizhia. It is almost an unachievable task. Well, here the news are not that good for Ukraine because Russia expanded its territorial gains. They're already in Vysoke and Zeleny High. So it is clear that they are moving towards Gulaipole itself, and for the first time they start the massive bombardment of Gulaipole, this area which they potentially may use as the spot for their infantry infiltration. It was like this role of bombardment. Well, still Russia will have to spend lots of the time to occupy Gulaipole, and definitely it is like this one of the main defense spots and hub centers for Ukrainian army. Unfortunately, Russia uses aviation gliding bombs. I would say it's one of those decisive weapons that gives them advantage on the front lines. Maybe together with Lancet drones, but Lancet drones, it is possible to intercept those somehow. As for the gliding bombs, there are no robust tools to deal with them yet. So yeah, unfortunately, it's just a matter of time that Russians will get at least to the northeastern side of Gulaipole. The deep state military map also confirms the Russian movement towards Gulaipole, so Zeleny High, Chervona were almost occupied for the last maybe couple of days, and the gray area expanded. Well, here Gulaipole could be attacked from multiple of the directions. Since Russians already crossed the river in Marfopol, they may go also from this side. But we'll see. I think Ukraine will defend Gulaipole for extensive period of time. That's basically the strategy of Ukraine to exchange the territory for time, which is crucial for Ukraine. And unfortunately here, the defense is kind of weak for Ukrainian army compared to Donbass. Well, in Radysne, Russians went there, put their flags, but nothing happened more. There is the great possibility that those attacks are mainly for PR, because from the videos I saw, all of them are being hit by FPV drones in the High Village and also in Radysne. Danilivka is in a gray zone for almost 1 week. That's why all of those attacks, they're in a gray mainly. Russia has their presence sometimes somewhere, but hesitates to send main reinforcements. Well, they tried to do it in Oleksiivka and were caputed, so you understand what I'm talking about. Even with their stupid attempt to get Novopavlivka, Russians failed. It became the trap for them. They all were annihilated. And there is no any new evidence published for the last 3 days at least, showing at least moving Russians. They all prefer not to show the signs of life. Alright, now let's go to Pokrov's direction, where Russians actually moved just a little in the northern side here, Chervony Liman, So here Ukraine tries to counterattack from Suhetske, but because Russia already made their bridgehead in Ruzzia, unfortunately they were capable to supply their group with a massive amount of the forces, which were 2 times, or at least now 2 times bigger than Ukrainian army presence here. So today they went to this part of the field, but still Ukraine has the gap here for supplies, even though supplies are quite risky for Mirnograd and only possible during thick fog conditions. Yes, weather plays the great role, and Ukrainian military command still hesitates to remove Ukrainian army from Mirnograd. Well, maybe they know more, since Mirnograd is holding for already 2 weeks in the same more or less position. I would say the same bottleneck, but still there is the huge risk for Ukrainian army. The deep state also tells about the light Russian army movement in this area today. They just crossed this lake. Nothing substantial, I would say. The situation itself is concerning, not this small Russian movement. In Pokrovsk direction, Russians tried to send some of the reinforcements using vehicles, but all of them were kaputted on the way. Infantry also was chased, as well as some vehicles. Ukrainian drones sometimes operate very deep. 20 kilometers is the standard of nowadays. Unfortunately, there are also bad news from the front lines. Our guys were captured by Russians in Pokrovsk direction. It happened, and they were unalived right away. This war crime was filmed by drone. Russians are just barbarians. Let's stay on this map for a while. In the northern area here, Russians already moved towards Vladimirovka, almost completely occupying this village. But I don't believe that in a close perspective Russians may regain those territories of Zoloty Kolodets, Kucherov Yar, because Ukraine deployed very capable forces here. They will not let Russians go, especially across this natural obstacle. There's the hill. The higher elevation is always better. Also in Konstantinivka, Russia advanced again with a big gray area towards Ivanopilya, Pleshivka, and towards what? Some sort of the local school, private households. So, the fight's already ongoing in Konstantinivka itself. Russian generals reported to Putin that Konstantinivka is almost fully under their control, but it is not happening like that. I think that the fight for Konstantinivka will go for a very long time, since this area is very defended. I mean, Konstantinivka, Drushkivka, Kramatorsk, which is the big settlement, and Slavyansk. Altogether, it's way bigger than Bakhmut. So just imagine how many losses Russian army potentially may have here. And here we have the image taken from Konstantinivka direction. Russian supplies were hit. You see, they are forced to take just paved roads because of the dirt out there. Ukraine is working to hit those Russian supplies. It's very important for Ukraine. Basically, that's what makes the Russian advancement very slow. Ukrainian drones. In Siversk, Russians also went to the settlement. The fights there continue for several days consecutive. You might see there is the pocket and those fields. I don't believe that there is the presence of Ukrainian army. Maybe in the settlement of Zvanivka, after all, but here it's hard to tell. The situation fluctuates on the front lines with changes coming every hour. So no any map may tell you in precise details what is happening, but the general picture we may see. In those settlements as Konstantinivka, Pokrovsk, we have more details because the use of the drones is more, so we have more confirmation from the drone videos. As for Liman, the settlement will be occupied basically because there is the collapse for Ukrainian supplies after Russians hit this bridge. With that, they may occupy Liman this winter, but they are unable to send their forces to Slavyansk any longer because they cut the only one supply line for them. So they prefer to have the small achievement rather than to go for something bigger, or maybe they understood that Ukraine in any case would blow out those bridges if Russia occupy Liman. So for them it will be the faster task to go to Liman now. Alright, Kupiansk, the city that was proclaimed to be fully occupied by Putin himself. To somehow confirm Putin's words, Russians start to put their flags. They sent some of the kamikaze soldiers to the left bank of the river, but it was just a flag operation and the Ukrainian army is now dealing with everything of that, and still the vast part of the city is in a gray area. Only the red area has been confirmed under the Russian full control. The rest are just the flag operations of Russians. There is the presence also of the Ukrainian army, the presence of the Russian army. The fight for the city is ongoing. Yes, it is understandable that Ukraine will lose it after all, but Russians will have to waste their resources. They're unable to concentrate their army in one task. For example, to send everyone to Pokrovsk. No, Russia is attacking in Kupiansk, in Zaporizhia, Pokrovsk, Konstantinivka. They spread their resources. So they cannot achieve a single big breakthrough, but if they concentrate their forces in one direction for Ukraine, it would be even better, because in that case Ukraine may also deal with that, sending lots of the drone units, artillery to the same spot. With the modern-day war style, Russians will not have an advantage. Maybe that's why they're attacking from multiple of the areas to spread Ukrainian resources alongside the front lines, because after all, Ukraine has less resources than Russians. Well, in case of Kupiansk, it's interesting that Ukraine tries to cut Russian supplies in this northern area. Russians are using this kind of the road, and they have their bridgehead or supply hub in Zapadne village. What is this? Fentanyl?
Сейчас, не дай бог, ты упадешь, пидорас. Я тебя
Oh my, this is really Russian. Those are Russian soldiers. Oh my god. Are they being deployed to the front lines?
Пьяный был. Ты зачем подписывал контракт? А зачем?
Yeah, they say like, why you signed the contract, this instructor? Okay, they're in a training somewhere, training camp in Russia. They're taking everyone, guys. Yeah, I'm not saying that Russian army is just like that. It is capable. They're taking the ground. They have very experienced soldiers and fighters, but at the same time, they hire those guys. And I understand why. They'll be given this substance that they like and also Russian flag, and they will go across the fields, several kilometers, wave the flag, and boom, that's it. They'll accomplish their mission. Judging on those flag videos, mostly those are waved by those creeps.
Ты что думал, здесь детский сад тебе нахуй? Реабилитационный центр? Нянчиться?
Yeah, it's like, did you think that army is a rehabilitation center for you? Why did you sign the contract? And the guy tells that he was mobilized.
В баньку водят. Хули надо-то еще? Ты зачем подписал контракт?
Oh, it's like a Fallout game, Wasteland, some of the ghouls. Jeez. Yeah, in that condition, they cannot even stand normally. They need their special fuel to be functional.
Пьяный был. Ты зачем подписал? Тоже пьяный был.
Okay, so the main question is, why did you sign the contract with the Russian army? And all of them replied, I was drunk. And this guy wearing helmet, he said, I was drunk, I was taken. Oh my god. Well, together with those clumsy soldiers, Russians have clumsy cars, which they use. Like, this is the Mad Max. 21st century Mad Max. Who would have thought that those vehicles could be effective? But they are. They move faster, they're damn cheap, and mainly Russians just steal them from locals. And the outcome for the big tank or this vehicle, it's pretty much the same. So why to pay more if you just need to deliver infantry on the front line? And Russian tanks are used just to back up BMPs or infantry carrying vehicles, MTLBs, Russians have those. Mainly tanks are not working as tanks any longer. They're put ahead just because they may sustain more of the drone strikes, and they also may carry the mining plug in the front. Wow. They even cannot rotate their turret any longer. So if the weather is good, those vehicles are pretty much okay to advance even across the field roads. But now we see less of those because of the bad weather. Meanwhile, Russians start to mobilize Ukrainians against Ukraine. This is happening in occupied city of Berdyansk, the southern area of Ukraine. As you see, many of the locals are coming from the Russian conscription center right into the bus and will be delivered maybe directly to the front lines, maybe via training center to the front lines, but it's not a volunteer mobilization. No, they were forcibly mobilized. That basically shows why Russia needs Ukraine also to mobilize its people for the further wars. If they do not hesitate to take those to fight against their own country, imagine what it might happen if Russia really gets Ukraine under its control. Alright, we have some more news around the capitulation deal that was proposed to Ukraine by the United States of America. Well, as usual, Trump chickens out. Why? Well, because this deal is not popular, not even in Europe, but also among Republicans. Yes, people from his own party, they condemn this proposal. They say it's nonsense. There are multiple of the GOP representatives who wrote this stuff in Twitter. I will not quote them. You may already know. And it seems like the Trump's team understands that the rating of Donald, the approval rating, is record low. Plus, he continued to follow unpopular steps because in America, people, they mainly do not like Putin. They see Russia as enemy, as competitor. There is crazy part of society that thinks that Russia is a friendly state. Like, for example, Derek Hoffman, who with his family went to Russia from Texas and fighting for Russia somewhere. Maybe he's alive, maybe not. I need to check the information about him, by the way. But mainly people, they don't like Russia. And they see that Trump proposing what is written by Russia, by Dmitriev to Ukraine, to surrender its territories. Come on, this proposal simply cannot be popular in the United States of America. So why does he chicken out? Well, let's listen. I hope you'll understand what is out there, because as usual, there's a helicopter very close with a running auxiliary power unit or something.
Is this your final offer to Ukraine?
No, not my final.
Is it your final offer to Ukraine? He said, no, not the final. So he already chickens out with that proposal because it is not accepted. It cannot be accepted by Ukraine, by Ukrainian allies in Europe, because it is a capitulation. Without any sort of the real security guarantees for Ukraine, without Russian concessions, they're just Ukrainian territorial concessions, and Ukraine should reduce its army. Come on. Ukrainian army is the main security guarantee, as we see, judging on the history. According to the deal, the conditions for Russia to attack Ukraine successfully once again are pretty much ideal. So Putin, it's like invitation for Putin, go and take Ukraine. You finally can do it. Bloomberg says that the key figures in the United States administration didn't know about the plan till the very last moment. Then the details were leaked by Dmitriev. It is already understandable because Witkoff tweeted accidentally himself about it, thinking that he is sending the private message, that probably it was leaked by K. K is Kirill Dmitriev. So I may understand it as the behind-the-curtain game by Dmitriev and Witkoff, even behind Trump's back. It could be like that. Witkoff has his own private interest. It's 100%, judging on his behavior. He is pro-Russian dumb fuck. So the idea for him was to come out with a deal out of nowhere, to present it as something really robust to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was fool enough to believe in that bullshit. Because after all, it's his friend Witkoff who also has the common shares in Trump's crypto companies and many more other businesses. But de facto Witkoff is incompetent, delusional guy who has been used by Russia fully. He's a Russian asset. For Donald Trump, we may have some of the questions whether he is a Russian asset or not, but Witkoff, it's 100%, absolutely. I guess even J.D. Vance was not aware of that one. He started to spread some sort of the nonsense about Russia and Ukraine should kiss each other, trade and make a deal, any sort of the deal. Let's make peace, not war. So he was saying like 5 years old. It is similar to saying poor people should earn more and stop being poor, yeah? And today he came out with this. Any Ukraine-Russian peace plan has to stop the killing while preserving Ukrainian sovereignty, because be acceptable to both Russia and Ukraine. It will never be. Maximize the chances the war doesn't restart. Yes, but the deal currently presented maximizes those chances for restart exponentially. Every criticism of the peace framework and administration is working on either misunderstands the framework or misstates some critical reality on the ground. There is a fantasy that if we just give more money, more weapons or more sanctions, victory is at hand. Peace won't be made by failed diplomats or politicians living in fantasy land. It might be made by smart people living in the real world. And what was proposed is totally definitely not from the real world. What is interesting here that administration, it seems like, still working on something. So from one hand we have Donald Trump who says, oh, Ukraine should get the deal done, sign the deal till Tuesday, because he believed in that with his full heart, because it was presented by Witkev, his close friend. But then it backfired. They say, oh, maybe we should work on that. Maybe it's some sort of the someone misunderstand the framework or what is happening. Well, peace, 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 kiss, 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 something like that. Yeah, from J.D. Vance we heard those kind of the stories. Well, here he is not correct. The sanctions are not working. No, every kind of the pressure on Russia is definitely working. But we see the pressure on victim from the United States of America. A really huge pressure applied on Ukraine. Well, luckily, there are sanctions introduced against Russia, but Ukraine is pushed even more with this peace deal, which will not be accepted. Well, tomorrow in Geneva, there will be talks between Ukraine, United States, and European representatives. Well, they will discuss that bullshit, but Ukraine and the Europeans already stated that they will never ever accept the shrinking of Ukrainian army and for Ukraine to give up its territories just like that. Also, European officials say that it's basically encouragement of Putin for his war crimes. 100%, yes. Only pro-Russian puppets as Orban are satisfied with the deal. They say Ukraine should sign it immediately. We will block all of the support for Ukraine, economical, military. Well, this Jabba Hutt may block everything it wants because, and will not see this ugly face any longer because in a few months he will lose elections in Hungary. Oh boy, she is leaving us, guys. Major Taylor Green, why? Just why? It was so fun with you. Yeah, she says that she resigns on 5th of January and will not run for elections once again. Whew. And Donny, he's just beaten her in the back, saying that she would have no chance of winning. You know, reading Donald Trump, I understand that he's completely out of his mind. He has not dementia, but maybe some other disease, or maybe dementia with something. I understand he's not typing the text directly, but he's telling to some sort of the secretary to fill this. They type all of that from his own words. So how in the same freaking message, the same message, he calls her a traitor with the plummeting polls numbers. Marjorie cooperated with the worst Republicans. Marjorie went bad, but at the same time, I appreciate Marjorie and thank her for her service to our country. How? How is it possible? Traitor? I appreciate traitor? What? That's all about Donny. We should not take those posts or what he says seriously. Because he might change his mind. He's completely out of mind. Yeah, he is not changing his mind because the mind itself is sick. Just recall what Trump was saying and writing about Mamdani, the newly elected mayor of New York. But then they met. Okay, it was a great honor to meet Zoran Mamdani, the new mayor of the New York. They were laughing. They were cheerful, satisfied. That's all about Donald Trump. That's the same with this so-called peace deal. Zelensky doesn't have cards, Ukraine is losing the ground. Then just 1 month ago, Ukraine was not losing the ground that much and Russia is unsuccessful on the front lines and Ukraine is capable to liberate its lands back. It's clinic, guys. You cannot explain Trump's behavior other than to put some sort of the diagnosis here. Well, I'm not the doctor after all, but I'm reviewing Trump so long that maybe I may become the one. But I'm sure that the real doctors, they understand that the roof went completely off a long time ago. So judging on that, what we know about Donny, the peace deal is nothing burger and we'll forget about it in 1 month maximum, maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Donald Trump, and Donny may change his behavior to totally opposite. Yeah, it's Donny, all about Donny. Wow, Ukraine has received those Skynex air defense systems from Rheinmetall, Germany. 4 of them were delivered to Ukraine. They are very effective. Our guys are very satisfied. They could be used to shut down Russian Shaheds and not only. Yeah, they're very, very advanced and powerful. Awesome. Germany, thank you. Some of the news relative to Ukrainian corruption scandal. Oh my god, just look at this face. This is Zuckerman. Oh, Yeah, the Shrek-like face is so honest. Absolutely trusted person to give money. So anyways, Ukraine put the warrant on those guys and now they're in international search. But of course, Israel will never give them back to Ukraine because those are Israeli citizens and it's against Israeli policy or legislation to give their citizens to other countries. So my personal prediction that they will never be prosecuted and they will live their best lives outside Ukraine. Sadly. Yeah, Timur Mindic, who is a long-time friend and partner of Zelensky, and Zuckerman, who also knew Zelensky and they were friends with Mindic. Very terrible, guys, very terrible. Oh my god, what is happening to the Russian economy? Is it shrinking? Could it be like that? The central bank discovered a 10 trillion ruble time bomb on banks' balance sheets. The economic slowdown, escalating sanctions, and sharply rising interest rates have created a time bomb under the Russian banking system, equivalent to 2 annual Moscow budgets. Well, so far it's not that huge. I think 10 trillion Russian economy will still last, but whether it will be capable to pay its soldiers, that's the other story, because the main motivation for Russians to go to Ukraine is money. Even the Russian propaganda shows millions of rubles on billboards, on TV screens. Join army, and you'll be rich. Dead but rich, yeah. So without this motivation, obviously Russia will not be capable to continue its war in Ukraine. It's 100%. And that's the plan of Vitkov and Dmitriev to save Russian economy, save Russian army, and after it, to attack Ukraine once again. But we know that it will not go because Ukraine will not accept it, as well as Ukrainian people. It's not just about Zelensky, it's not about Ukrainian government, not about allies. It's about Ukrainian warriors and Ukrainian people. My friends, thank you for making my job possible with your kind support on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description just below. And also, thank you for supporting me on membership. You may press join button to join the membership, and that's how you make me post videos every day. Thank you so much for keeping me motivated. You're just awesome. If you don't have that opportunity to support me on Patreon or membership, just press like and subscribe for the channel. By doing so, you also help me a lot to propel this video in the YouTube algorithms. Now, my friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.